Hello and welcome. My name is Helen Jennings. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator based here in the UK, and I'm delighted to come and join you on this launch party event to share a bit of a project with you. So let me just quickly introduce myself. This is where you will find me. Love-a-Duckie is my business name, and www.loveaduckie.co.uk is my website where you will find all my inspiration and those sorts of things. So do come along and find me. And if you're looking for me anywhere on social media, you'll find me under Love-a-Duckie, whether that's Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of those places, you will find me. So let's take that back and let's introduce you to my project for today. Now I'm going to be playing with the Wisteria Wishes bundle, a beautiful bundle. As I'm here in the UK, I have seen lots of wisteria starting to come out, and traditionally we sort of see it on sort of big manor houses and cottages, in people's gardens along trellises. Really beautiful, beautiful. And so it really struck me that this was a bundle that I wanted to get my hands on. And as you can see from the samples in the catalogue, you've got your hanging wisteria there, but they've also used it the other way up as sort of a lupins type flower. So just stunning. So don't only think of it as wisteria. It's something that you can use all year round. And just to prove you can use it all year round, if you check out the sample with the bundle in the back, they've created little Christmas trees. So really is a bundle that you can be using all year round. And the bundle itself consists of a stamp set. Let's dig out my little box of goodies. Consists of a stamp set with sort of these flower pieces that obviously then you can turn upside down and make into trees or other flowers, depending, and let your imagination run riot. This would make quite a good in grey, would make quite a good pathway or something, wouldn't it? So lots of uses for this stamp set other than just its beautiful wisteria original intention. You've got the leaves and things here with the hanging pieces for your wisteria to hang on. You've got your upright foliage here that you can add these flowers to, or indeed could add other flowers to. Some really nice greetings hang in there. Even when you don't understand, happiness grows within. Faith is about trusting to a friend who's all kinds of wonderful. So some really lovely sentiments in there as well. So a lovely stamp set. And of course, we also need the dies. And the dies, you have dies to cut out. This stamp, this stamp, this stamp, and this stamp. Is that all of them? Yeah, leaves, flowers, this one and these ones. You've then got this sort of knobbly, gnarled type detailed branch piece just there. And if I swing this over, you then have these three detailed dies. And these are the three dies we're going to be using for our project today. So we're not going to do too much stamping. We're going to be concentrating on the die cutting with this project. So this is where we are aiming for. This is what we're hoping to finish with. Something like that. We can never tell. It may go a little bit slightly different, but we're aiming for some wisteria, detailed wisteria dies with, as you can see, a bit of multicolored blending on there, and a little butterfly has sneaked in from a returning stamp set in the new catalogue. So where shall we start? We have got a thick basic white card base, and this is half a sheet of cardstock scored in half. So if you are looking at metric, that's 29.7 by 10.5, scored at 14, just under 14.9. In imperial, that's 11 by 4.25, scored at 5.5. She says, hopefully. Yes, I'm sure that's right. We've then got a mat of the new Orchid Oasis. Let's just double check that I've got that right. Yes, I've not got them quite off pat yet. The Orchid Oasis cardstock. So you've got a mat there that is either 10 by 14.4 or 5.25 by 4, depending on where in the world you are. I have then taken a piece of basic white card that measures 9.5 by 13.9 or 5 inches by 3 3/4, and I have run it through the bricks and mortar embossing folder. Now this is a returning embossing folder, but because so often we see wisteria growing up walls or the fronts of houses, I thought that was a really good choice for the background on these cards. So you've got the bricks and mortar embossing folder there, and I love this embossing folder because it just gives such a lot of texture to it. It really does look like bumpy bricks. And I've also got a piece of just basic white card there. And to be honest, that piece of basic white card is where I cut my A4 card at 13.9 and cut off my 9.5 strip. That's the rest of it. So yes. And I've got some die cuts here. So I have already die cut the leaf shapes out of old olive, and as you can see there, you get that really lovely detailing on all of these leaves. It really is beautiful die, and there's no reason why you can't be using these leaves for all sorts of things. Just snip bits off. You might want to snip off that long bit and add on some different blossoms or something if you want a blossom tree, but really gorgeous dies. And I've also cut a label. So this is just a basic white label. You can see that embossed detail around the edge, and that is actually from another new die set, which comes with the men's suite. I haven't actually got that die set popped in my my box. Let's find it for you. So we have the masculine suite in the He's All That suite in the catalogue. And the thing that really struck me about this suite is, in fact, the dies that go with it. So you've got some really lovely fancy DSP and all of those sorts of things, but you've got these fabulous label dies in here, including banners and all sorts of things. Sort of slightly sunburst type circles and these interesting little pieces just here, and that's where this die has come from. So that's that label die. I am armed here with a couple of blending brushes. So the first blending brush we're going to use with some grey granite ink. Now you notice that I didn't put down a clean sheet under here, but I'm about to make it even more messy. So that just seemed like a waste of a sheet. And in times when we're all trying to be a little bit more eco-friendly, it didn't seem worth putting down a clean sheet just to make it dirty. So I'm going to take some grey granite ink here on my blending brush, and I'm just going to come over the top of this basic white wall, and hopefully you can pick up on the video how that just makes that pop as it picks up the surface of the embossing. And some of the bricks on this embossing folder stand prouder than some of the others, and they're the ones that are really going to pick up the ink and that are really going to suddenly start to pop off the page. So just coming in over the top. Don't want too much, but it does just give a bit more dimension and focus to that brick wall. So we will pop that back there, ready to stick that in place. And now I'm going to take another blending brush and some more colours. And this time we're going in with some purples. I've got some fresh freesia, I've got the new Orchid Oasis, and I've got some gorgeous grape. So I'm going to start with the paler of these colours. I'm going to swap out my blending brush. Just going to give it a rub and pick up some of this fresh freesia ink. So obviously the fresh freesia is an ink colour from last year. It is a 2021-2023 ink colour, but still very much part of our collection for another year. I'm going to come across this centerpiece with this fresh freesia, building up the colour. And the more that you work over it, as the ink builds up, the easier it does blend around. Now I'm going to use the same brush, and I'm going to come in with some Orchid Oasis. Now obviously this is a brand new pad, very juicy. So gently, gently does it as we start to build this up. Tapping the brush in the lid there first, just so that that initial excess ink that's coming off is coming off in the lid of my ink pad, and then obviously I can use that for watercolouring or let's turn this round and come in round the other side. You can see where I've rested my finger on there. Best to avoid resting your finger on top of where you've just ink blended, as you will get finger marks. And then last but not least, I'm going to come in with Gorgeous Grape. Make a gorgeous piece for a background, but we're actually going to use it as a piece to do our die cutting from. And to come up the side here a little bit, sort of blending those colours all in together. Come in with a bit more blue. I'm going to give that a good rub on my paper and then come in and blend over the top. And you can just keep adding colour until you're happy with your finished result. So there we have a piece of card with sort of various shades of pinky purples going on. So now we're going to take our wisteria dies, and there are 2 dies, and they do actually sit on top of each other. So you've got one at the back and one that sits on the top. So I'm going to die cut these from this piece of card, and I'm going to cut 3. So, excuse me while I'm just running these through the machine. So I'm using my large Stampin' Cut and Emboss for this one, because obviously that's quite a wide piece of card, but these dies will happily fit through your mini machine. There's one pair. Just moving them slightly around the piece of card stock so that you get slightly different colour. And last but not least, I'm going to put in one more of these, and then I'm going to quickly pick up one of the butterflies from the Brilliant Wings die. So this is carrying over. This is a carrying over favourite. Let's bring that in there so that we can sneak that butterfly in down the bottom there. Swing that one round a bit, bring that one up a bit. There we go. And here comes our final set of blooms and our butterfly. Let's just pop this butterfly out. Pop him back on his magnetic sheet so he doesn't fly away. Right, I'm actually going to stick these wisteria blooms directly on top of each other. You could get some little dimensionals, and you might have to trim some down and add a bit more depth to them. But I am actually going to be adding dimensionals to the back of some of them, so I don't want to build them up too high. Now, when it comes to putting them together, when I've stopped being all fingers and thumbs, you can line those bottom pieces up, and this top piece sort of nests between those 2 pieces. And there you get this sort of multi-tonal effect on your wisteria. Let's come in for this one. Make sure I pop out any little pieces. Pop that down. Third one. Pop out those pieces. You can obviously wiggle around, and perhaps if you'd like these not to be so lined up, perhaps you'd like them a little bit more off center, you can have a play with them. So there we have 3 hanging wisteria blooms and a butterfly. So let's start bringing this together. Oh, let's just stamp this first. So I have picked one of the sentiments from the set, to a friend who's all kinds of wonderful, and I've got some Orchid Oasis ink here. So let's just stamp that in our label. I managed to catch that on the edge, but that's okay. I'm going to add some glue to the back of my wall and stick that to my piece of Orchid Oasis cardstock, and then we'll pop that on our card base. And I'm going to come in with my die cut leaves. Let's pop some little spots on the back here, and I've just seen a little bit of that hasn't popped out, so let's do that. So I'll have this one, the edge, and here's our bit dangling down from which to attach our die. Bring in my ink block, give that a press. Let's fetch our other set of leaves. Add some dots of glue, and we'll have these sort of from there. And then we have another hanging piece. I'm going to lift this leaves up because I'm going to have those coming over the top of my wisteria. So my first piece of wisteria, I'm going to have sort of coming in from the side here. I've got inky fingers. Uh-oh. This next one, I'm going to bring in some mini dimensionals. Just pop a few of those in there. And we'll have that coming down this way, and that leaf hanging over the top. I'm going to put my label on before I add the next one. Let's take some tear and tape and some of the new in colour beautiful glittery shiny ribbon. And we will just bring some of that to swirl across the back. So I've put down some tear and tape on the back to hold it down. Let's snip that off. So I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of here. Let's pinch some big ones. We'll have that down here. Oh, before I do that, what I do want to do, and it's better to do this before you add the dimensionals on, I'm just going to take what ink is left on my blending brush and come around the edge. Obviously do that before you add your ribbon or your dimensionals, but that just gives it a little bit of added texture and things and helps it pop out a little bit from the background. So add dimensionals to your final piece of Wisteria, and we're going to have that so it comes down over the top of our label. And then last but not least, in terms of die cuts, we have our little butterfly. I'm just going to add some glue down the centerpiece just here and leave him so his wings are flying free. And then just to add some embellishments, these are the 2022-23 in colour dots, and they are sort of like an ombre effect. So you get some slightly darker, some slightly lighter. Let's have a little selection. We'll have final one in here. There we go. So I might come in and put another butterfly on there before I finish, because I've done a bit of a blob, but that's where butterflies come into their own, don't they? But there was my original, and you can see how those colour tones are slightly different just by using, because we have blended that centre point. And you could just add glue down the centerpiece and lift these up a little bit to give them even more dimension, have a real play with them. But beautiful, beautiful detailed dies. So gorgeous stamps, fabulous dies, an absolutely wonderful bundle. So make sure that you add that to your shopping cart. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this catalogue launch, and that your shopping list is full to burst by the time you finish. So have a fun time, and thank you for joining me.